Today in this video, we are going to be going over and looking at some of my favorite strings for acoustic guitar. We're going to tell you why I chose them, do a little bit of a blind test to see if you can tell the difference, and also tell you what I think of each of these set and how it ranks in relation to each other. We're going to do all that in this video, and stick around because it's going to be a whole bunch of fun. So what we'll do right now, folks, is just kind of get into the specs of each of these sets that I picked out. We're going to start with the standard EJ17 from Daddario. This is a phosphor bronze medium set, as will all of these will be. It's just a standard set that most people use on all their guitars. I think it's a great set. This normally prices out at $11.99 per set. Then we're also going to move on to the XS Phosphor Bronze, again in a medium set. Prices out at $22.99, but this is a coated string, and one of my favorite coated strings. In fact, this one is my favorite coated string out there right now. We're also going to talk about the GHS Americana set. This one is kind of unique in that it does have a bronze-plated core wire and has been cryogenically treated, and comes in at a price point of $13.99. And the last one we're going to check out is the Stringjoy Foxwoods. This one also is a coated string, but with a little bit of a unique spin on this. This does have a few characteristics that other string companies don't have, and we're going to see if you guys think that's pretty cool. Anyway, those come in at a price point of $17.90. So now that we know what we're going to work on, we're going to demo each one of them, and what we're going to start with right now is the Daddario EJ17. This is pretty much the standard bearer for all strings out there. In fact, most manufacturers, this is what they're shipping their guitars with. And again, this one is just a good old string here. So we'll kind of play it a little bit and see what you guys think. All right, now we'll get into our rating system here. As always, we will be doing this on a scale of 1 to 5, in an order of 5 being the best, 1 being the lowest, and we'll do this in 4 different categories: tone, feel, durability, and overall value. We're going to start with the tone. On the EJ75s, there's not much to complain about here. This is a good string. It's pretty much the standard and what I base most of my instruments off of. So for me, this is a good string. I'm going to put this at a 4 because it's, I want to base this kind of as a neutral section, which would have been a 3. I think it's a little bit better than that because I really do think this is a good overall tone. Now feel, doesn't have the slick. You are hearing a lot more of those string noises as I slide up and down here. Obviously, again, it's for me a standard bearer. So I'm going to give this one a 3 when it comes to feel. Nothing special, nothing bad. It's just a 3. Durability. These are good strings. They're not going to last as well as a lot of coated strings and things of that nature, yet they do a pretty good job. So again, I'm going to put this kind of in that center spot at a durability level of a 3. Now overall value, this is going to be our least expensive string, yet it is going to also be a very affordable option for a lot of people. You can almost buy 2 sets of these strings for the price of some of the coated strings that are going to be available to you. So in that amount, again, I think these are pretty darn good value. So I'm going to put these at a 4 right there. Again, nothing super crazy on the top, definitely not low. These are just a really good overall string, so we're going to base it in more of a central position. Now, who do we think these strings are for? I think this is for the everyday user. This is a person who doesn't mind changing strings often and recognizes that they can get the best sounding tone from a nice fresh set of strings, and these are going to be a good option for you right there. So I would say this is for the everyday user that doesn't mind changing strings often. It's a really good balanced set. As far as the tone, again, this is kind of the standard bearer. This is what phosphor bronze strings sound like, and to me, that's what I want to hear out of most of my guitars. There's nothing that stands out strong. It's just a really good bass deal, and lets me know. By the way, I like things to stay pretty neutral. That way I know what each one of my guitars is doing, not necessarily what the strings are doing for it. So there's that. Cons to this, again, the worst part about this string is going to be that you're going to be changing it more often than some of the other strings that we have that would last long. So that, to me, That's the worst thing about this particular set of strings. These are really good running average strings. Other strings to compare them to, the standard phosphor bronze from most every manufacturer, honestly. There's not a big, in my opinion, a big variance when you come to that. So if you're looking for a standard set of strings from GHS or Martin or any of those, in my opinion, there's only slight differences. The metal is almost identical. There's some slight differences in gauges and stuff, but honestly, I think that if you're trying that and you've already played any of those other brands in a standard phosphor bronze set, probably going to find that these are very, very comparable. Now we're moving on to the GHS Americana set. This set retails at $13.99. Big difference with this one is that it does have a phosphor bronze plated core wire on it with its standard phosphor bronze on top. It also is cryogenically treated, which does add to the strength of the string, and they claim does make a difference in the tone. But I do know that scientifically, cryogenically treating metal does make the strength of that string a little bit harder. So we're going to see what that kind of sounds like right now. All right, now we're going to get into our rating system, and we're going to start again with tone on a scale from 1 to 5. This is where I really like this string. I think this is my favorite. When I go in the studio, this is my favorite sounding string. It does kind of give me a more rounded top end, especially on those high strings with that plated string, and also just a little bit more rounded, smoothed, but still that crisp tone. So for me, this is a 5. I really love the tone of this string. This one's the one I kind of just go to almost always. For feel, this one right here, again, this is a standard non-coated string. I don't know that it feels any different. Now, the one thing I can tell you, this one does run a 36 in the middle versus a 35 with the Daddario. So I do like having that a little bit extra resistance in the D string. So for feel, I'm still gonna give it a 3, maybe a 3.5. Let's go ahead, we'll call it a 3.5. Durability wise, these do not break. Well, I'm not going to say that. I can claim that they don't break, but I have not had any break in a very, very long time when it came to this particular string, and I think that's due to that cryogenic treating. So I think it's extra durable, but I don't know that it lasts as long as most of the coated strings that are out there. So for me, durability-wise, I'm going to give this a 4. Now, overall value, this is again, comes down here. This one is a pretty darn affordable set. It is a little bit more than the EJ17s. So I'm going to give this a 4.5 when it comes to overall value. I think that these are a really good string that just sound good all the time. They're not super expensive, so that's where I'm going to put it. Now, who are these strings for? I find these for the person that's looking for a particular tone. They love that average sound of phosphor bronze, but with a little bit of tailoring. And again, it's just that little bit of difference right there, not dramatic, and it gives me a really good base for all the guitars that I use. So I find this to be great for studio use. Again, somebody who doesn't mind changing strings more often, but is after the best possible tone that they can get out of their guitar. Sound-wise, again, I think these just have enough brightness and roundness. I really do love that the E and B string are just more round in their tone. It's not as metallic, and I find that to be a very big advantage. With a standard steel E and B, you're going to get a little of that metal twinge that kind of happens, and this kind of rounds that out just a little bit, as well as even less so, but on the wound strings it does a little bit of that the same. So I just find this to be just a little bit warmer, more natural version of a standard phosphor bronze set of strings. Again, the cons of this particular string are that they're a little bit more expensive than the EJ17s, as well as the fact that you're going to be changing these more often. As far as other strings to compare this to, I know Martin builds a string they call the SP, now has a tin-plated core wire. That kind of gives it a little bit some of that rounded stuff too, so that might be a really good option to kind of see what it's closest to. Well, now we're going to try the Stringjoy Foxwoods. This is a coated string with a little bit different build style. They're definitely using some heavier core wire with a different feeling to it. And also, like I said, coating it. This comes in at $17.90. So we're going to check it out and see what they sound like. All right, now we're going to take a rating on these and start with our category for tone. Tone on this was a very interesting one for me. There's certain characteristics of these strings that I definitely do, and I do want to make a little bit of a caveat here. I have been playing the non-coated variation of these strings, but I know that the Foxwoods have been a more popular version of these, and so some of the things I'm going to talk about are not in there, but there is a characteristic to these strings that have a little bit more punch in the mid-range. So there is a definite attack and a rounder, blunt, fast attack to the mid-range that I have seen in all the Stringjoy sets. That said, with this coated string, I'm also finding a lot of dullness. Like this bottom E string is just almost flat on here to start with. But that has tons of punch right in there. So this is kind of a mixed bag for me. I do know, again, that I think I like it as a non-coated feeling a little bit more so. But there is definitely some dullness that is going on here. So for me, this one falls at a solid 3 maybe. The bottom end to me, I just can't get over what it's missing. Even though it does have that characteristic in the middle, I just can't get over the fact that I'm missing that bottom end and the brightness that would normally come with a new set of strings. Feel-wise, these feel, again, this is a mixed bag. Under my pick, I love the way these feel. I love that there is a good solid resistance to the way the strings hit and feel, so that when I hit a string, there is zero flex to it. Not zero, but very little flex. So I get a very quick attack off of the pick. That said, it also makes for a stiffer feel for the left hand. So again, this is a mixed bag for me. So I'm going to go with a 3 on this. Durability wise, honestly, I don't know the overall. I know that these are going to last quite long sounding exactly like they do. So the coating definitely gives it an add-on. So for that, I'm going to go with a 4. Overall value, these do pretty darn good. At a price of $17.90, this is lower than a lot of your coated strings that are out there. There is definitely a characteristic to this that you can't find from any other strings. So in that realm, I'm going to actually give this a 4.5. So who are these strings for? This is a really cool one, because I think if you are looking for a different sound for the guitar that you already own and want to try something that's going to give it a different characteristic, definitely that is a string that I would recommend trying. Again, I would probably lean more towards the naturals, because they do have a little bit more of that brightness and fresh, crisp sound, where these have a little bit more subdued type of tone. And I know there's a lot of you that love that sound, a played-in string. If you're one of those people that likes a played-in string that's been played for a day or two, this is probably more your direction. I definitely love the punch and drive that these are kind of getting. So if you're looking for something a little bit different than your standard phosphor bronze string, definitely try out the Stringjoys. Sound-wise, like I said, I'm just finding I love that mid-range attack. I really do, and I played this a bunch in the naturals. I really like what that added to it. It almost does give it a vintage tone added to a newer sounding guitar, but I'm just kind of missing that right there. It just... That section sounds great, but I'm just missing out on the low end. It just does not have the resonance and depth that I'm looking for in a string. So, cons of this string: it is a coated string. Pricing going to be a little bit higher than some. But overall, a pretty darn good choice. Comparison-wise, you know what I guess with the coating, I would say this compares closer to the Daddario XTs in the style of coating that it is. It's not something that you feel. It does definitely give you a different characteristic. And again, that feeling of, you know, the extra winds being at they string these at tension. They wind these strings at full tension. So you're getting more winds. So there's definitely, you know, something different there. So I don't know if there's something I could totally compare this to, but as far as a coated string, I would say closest to the Daddario XTs. All right, so the last set of strings that we're going to try here are the Daddario XS strings. Now this is their coated string. I believe they're using their standard EJ17s, but putting a nice coating on here, very similar to the coating that has been done on the Elixir strings in the past. A very overall slick feeling coating. Feels great, easy to play. Those of you guys who have followed the channel know I'm a little bit iffy on the coated strings, but this one has been one that I've kind of leaned in on pretty hard. So here it is, the Daddario XS set of strings. All right, so you heard what they sound like. We should probably go through our rating system. That sounds like a great idea. Here we are in a scale, again, 1 to 5. We'll start with tone. Tone-wise, guys, I think this is a really good set of strings. I think it's kind of a lot like the EJ17s. A slight bit of that brightness and brassness kind of taken off of it, but still feels almost identical to that. So with that being said, I find this to be a 4 as well, tone-wise. As far as the feel, this is where it's really cool. This gives you the standard feel of that regular set of strings. There is a little bit of a slick coating, which takes away some of the noise and slide sounds that you have, as well as makes it more easy to do that. Makes it easier to do that, which is, in my opinion, a great thing. In the studio, I could see where that would be a really big advantage. So the feeling of these strings, they play almost identical to that standard EJ17. So now you've got this coating that makes it a little bit nicer and a little slicker feeling. That's going to give it a little bit extra points. I'm going to actually rate that as a 5. Durability. I have used these strings. Honestly, I get probably 4, if not 5 times the amount of life out of a set of strings that is here. Now, a lot of people are talking about breaking of a couple of the strings that they see over time. I see that happens, but I almost feel like maybe to me that's because you're playing them 4 or 5 times as long. And again, the metal will fatigue, even though it is kind of coated and kept from that. So I'm not sure about the breakage on this, but I will tell you the string tone longevity is dramatically better. And this has been a thing for me because, like I said before, was not a big fan of coated strings because of the fact that they kind of sounded a little bit dull and weak. Now, they sounded that way for an incredibly long period of time, but I didn't like the way they sounded in the first place. Whereas this is so close to the EJ17s, which again is a standard for me, that with that and how long they last, that's a big deal. So again, a 5 for durability. Now when we come to overall value, again, these are almost twice as much as what the standard set is. In fact, almost exactly, a little less than twice as much. But again, I'm getting close to 4 times the amount of life out of them. So for me, overall value, that's pretty big. I'm going to give these also a 5. So now we answer, who are these for? Well, this is for, I think, the everyday player. And for me, this has become my string of choice for every guitar that I don't play on a regular basis. If I got a special case where I'm playing a show or I'm playing a studio session, I probably would lean on those Americanas. But for everyday playing, something I'm not going to have to worry about, I will put these on, not worry about changing them for months on end. I think that is a huge deal. So I would say everyday player that just does not want to have to change their strings, but is still looking for the best in tone, that's probably what the XSs are best for. Sound-wise, like I said, can hear the difference on that bottom end compared to what we had with the Stringjoys. We're talking about minute difference here in strings anyway. I find these to be so close to the EJ17s that I think they're just a good overall sounding string. A little bit less of maybe that brassness or that metallic sound that you get out of a fresh pack of strings, which is not necessarily a bad thing, especially if it's going to last that way for a long period of time. The downsides of this string, it is a coated string, so if you do not like that slick feel, you do not like to kind of, what you have kind of got to know of coated strings, you're not going to like this one. It's pretty much just like that, except for to me, less of the tonal changes that happen with a coated string. Comparison-wise, what I'd recommend checking this out with, the closest thing that I know out there is going to be the Elixir set. Very, very similar type of coating to their Nano as far as the feeling and the longevity. But again, I know there's something different here because they sound more like a standard non-coated set of strings. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take all of those and we're going to do our blind test, our world famous blind test, play them all back to back and move in between them, see which one you guys like best because they definitely had some characteristics and I'm pretty interested. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Which one was the best performing string? Put it in the comments and we'll see you next time. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is our first comparison of strings all on one guitar. These are my four favorite new string brands and types of strings that are out there. I hope that has kind of become something that you will find interesting. We did do a fun video if you want to check out more stuff on strings. We did a fun one on a coated string test video. We did non-coated as well as coated strings. We put them through all kinds of tortures and all that kind of stuff. And if you'd like to see that, you can grab it right over here. I know normally it's in the middle of me and Jeremy, but Jeremy's not here, so it's going to be on my left, and you can check that out. Get you a piece of that because that's a whole fun video just talking about what we did to torture strings and see which one you think lasted longer. And again, I've had a great time kind of talking about strings today. I was surprised. I thought this was going to be one of those videos where I'm just like, it's strings. But there were definitely differences. I got to hear them one right after the other. I hope you enjoyed it, and we will catch you for our next fun video here at the Acoustic Shop. See y'all later.